But the fact that the ratings from Caitlin Clark's series to these series fell off a cliff, it should surprise no one.
I'm watching the Indiana Fever game. I'm just waiting on Caitlin Clark to catch the basketball.
A.J. Wilson has went crazy over the lack of viewership since Caitlin Clark's exit from the playoffs. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to try to be the best. I get y'all saying best player in the world. That's great. It looks great. But I want to be the best person. I want to be the best teammate. She went for an interview and said this. This year is more the year that I've seen anyone call my game boring than it's ever been. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. A.A. Wilson has went crazy over the lack of viewership since Caitlin Clark's exit from the playoffs. A.A. Wilson would rather play with more freedom with fans not bothering too much about the sport, and that's exactly what she got when the Fever got eliminated. Nobody was interested in the playoffs anymore.
Let's just say the ratings aren't the same with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever now eliminated. Game 1 of the Aces Liberty matchup on Sunday drew an average of 929,000 viewers. It was down nearly 50% from last Sunday's Fever Sun contest. By the way, not only was viewership down, but attendance was as well.
Caitlin Clark's effect has led to game after game viewership dropping while she sat at home and watched everything unfold. I think she will be laughing at this mess. They could have had the highest viewed playoff final, but no.
All I got to say is she's lucky this UConn team isn't healthy. And that's a true statement.
That's wrong, Molly.
Monica?
That's wrong, Molly. Molly,
like
it's
five
excuses.
top players,
It's excuses,
am I right?
Molly. It's
Major
excuses.
injuries.
You would not be saying that if it wasn't UConn.
Major stars not playing.
Listen,
excuse me,
go. It's her against Caitlin Clark.
Stephen A.
Ain't no excuses.
Stephen
You
A.
got there.
Don't
want to hear that now.
Stephen A.
Let me tell you, if
Paige
Georgetown
Becker-
get back in the mix, I'm going to be insufferable. I'm just telling you that now.
What?
If Paige Beckerson basically missed 2 seasons, I don't know if we'd be talking about Caitlin Clark the way we are.
Now we get to see a New York Liberty versus Minnesota Lynx final. I can't even name one player on any of them teams. The final is set to have the worst viewership out of every game in the playoffs thus far. How does the WNBA even let this happen?
The reason 12 million people are watching ESPN for a game, if that game was on CBS, they probably would have had 25, 30 million people watching that.
Without Caitlin Clark. And it's very clear to see. They really tried to deny the Caitlin effect and said it wasn't a thing. Now they are realizing it within every moment that goes by. Without Caitlin, the WNBA has become unwatchable once again.
It looks like we're not going to be seeing Caitlin Clark play basketball again for another 200 days. An ESPN reporter said at the end of the Indiana Fever Connecticut Sun Game 2 that Caitlin Clark almost definitely will not be playing basketball this offseason. So no overseas and no 3-on-3 unrivaled.
A.A. Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces have been a dominant force throughout the WNBA season. The team entered the playoffs as one of the top contenders, and with A.J. at the helm, many expected the Aces to make it to the finals. However, the semifinal matchup against the New York Liberty did not go as planned. The Liberty, led by their own set of star players, delivered a strong performance and managed to knock out the Aces, sending shockwaves through the WNBA community. The elimination of the Las Vegas Aces not only ended the team's championship aspirations, but also removed one of the WNBA's biggest stars from the spotlight, contributing to the overall decline in playoff excitement.
Caitlin Clark's the most valuable, most important person in the WNBA this year and should have been unanimous rookie.
The unanimous MVP title typically comes with expectations. Fans and analysts alike expect that the MVP will lead their team deep into the playoffs, potentially all the way to a championship.
Disrespectful, but they talked a lot of trash and they got humbled. And I think that that's okay. That is sports. That is what we live for.
Caitlin Clark is a player who commands attention. Her style of play is captivating, and her ability to take control of the game makes her one of the most exciting athletes to watch in the WNBA. However, when the Indiana Fever, led by Clark, were eliminated from the playoffs by the Connecticut Sun, the playoffs lost a significant amount of their appeal. The excitement that usually comes with WNBA playoff games seemed to vanish. Without Clark, the games felt less intense, less thrilling, and frankly, less enjoyable for many fans.
Act like there isn't or hasn't been legitimate resentment emanating from those who are pioneers. Nobody's fooled here. You got pundits who used to play in the WNBA, some of them who didn't, and who were speaking on behalf of those who didn't want to create that kind of noise themselves. because of the negative impact. We talk about it when the men do it. If we detect jealousy, if we detect envy, if we detect resentment, and it's amongst the fellas, we put it out there. Shit, we act like it's the latest episode of General Hospital. But when the ladies are feeling that way about another young lady like Caitlin Clark, and people like myself and Shay Shay call it out, suddenly it's a problem.
The absence of a player like Caitlin Clark from the playoffs is more than just the loss of one player. It's the loss of an entire experience. Clark brings a unique blend of skill and charisma that draws in viewers, whether they are diehard basketball fans or casual viewers. When she was eliminated, that magic disappeared, and what was left was a playoffs that felt flat and unexciting. For the WNBA, this was a significant blow. The playoffs are supposed to be the pinnacle of the season, the time when the best players shine and fans are glued to their screens. But without Clark, the playoffs turn into what many described as a misery and a mess.
Since, Angel Reese had that injury, to me, and also coming off of Olympic break, Caitlin Clark separated herself. Yeah. She should have been unanimous. Now, to celebrate her, one thing that people forget is as a rookie, she was the most blitzed player in the WNBA, and she still put up 19, 5, and 8 assists.
After Caitlin Clark's exit, the WNBA experienced one of the most significant drops in viewership in its history. Fans who have been following the playoffs with enthusiasm suddenly lost interest. The numbers don't lie. But once Clark was out of the competition, the viewership began to plummet. The decline wasn't gradual. It was sharp and immediate, reflecting just how much of a draw Clark is for the league. The WNBA, like any professional sports league, relies heavily on viewership for its success. Television ratings are crucial for securing sponsorships, advertising deals, and even broadcasting rights. When the viewership drops, so do the league's opportunities to grow and expand its audience. The sudden decline in viewers following Clark's elimination is a clear indicator of just how important she is to the league's overall success. For many fans, the excitement of the playoffs was directly tied to Caitlin Clark's performances. Her ability to dominate a game, to make incredible plays that leave fans in awe, was a key reason why people were tuning in. Once she was out, the game simply didn't have the same appeal. Fans weren't as interested in watching teams without Clark, and this was reflected in the viewership numbers. If this decline cannot be overstated, the WNBA had been enjoying a steady increase in popularity with more fans tuning in to watch the games. But without Caitlin Clark, the league saw a massive drop in those numbers, a decline that could have long-term consequences if the league doesn't find a way to keep fans engaged without relying solely on its biggest stars. While many factors can contribute to a decline in viewership, it's clear that Caitlin Clark's absence was the primary reason for the dramatic drop in numbers. Clark is not just a player, she's a phenomenon. Her ability to capture the attention of viewers is unparalleled, and without her, the WNBA playoffs lost a significant portion of their audience. It's important to understand just how much of an impact Clark has on viewership. When she's on the court, fans are drawn in by her incredible skills, her leadership, and her undeniable presence. She has a way of making every game feel important, and viewers respond to that, whether it's her scoring ability or her clutch performances in key moments. Clark brings something to the game that few other players can match.
Pretty impressive for Caitlin to win Rookie of the Year in a dominant fashion when it is going to be one of the great rookie classes in the history.
When she was eliminated, that draw disappeared. Fans who have been tuning in to watch Clark's journey through the playoffs suddenly had no reason to continue watching. Other players, while talented, simply didn't have the same star power to keep viewers engaged. The WNBA is a league that thrives on its stars, and Caitlin Clark is one of the biggest. Without her, the playoffs lost a huge portion of their audience.
Off to the Fever on a great season. I don't think anybody expected them to make the playoffs after starting 1-8. They had a tremendous second half of the season. That Olympic break was much needed. But Caitlin Clark, she just completely changed around the WNBA culture, and she completely changed around the Indiana Fever's culture for the future. And the future is bright for the Indiana Fever. And I'm so happy that Caitlin Clark came into the WNBA light, and fans get to actually watch her and see what she.
Caitlin Clark isn't just one of the best players in the WNBA. She's the face of the league. Her ability to draw in viewers is unmatched, and she's become the central figure in the WNBA's efforts to grow its audience. When people think of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark is often the first player that comes to mind, and for good reason. Clark's style of play is what makes her so appealing to fans. She plays with a level of intensity and flair that is rare in professional sports. Whether it's her deep three-pointers, her flashy assists, or her fearless drives to the basket, Clark knows how to entertain. Fans tune in to see what she'll do next, and her presence on the court makes every game feel like a must-watch event. The moment the Indiana Fever, led by Caitlin Clark, were eliminated from the playoffs by the Connecticut Sun, the WNBA experienced one of the most significant declines in viewership in its history. This game was a turning point, the moment when everything changed. Up until that point, the playoffs had been drawing in a solid number of viewers. But after Clark's team was knocked out, the numbers began to fall rapidly. For fans, the loss of the Indiana Fever wasn't just about one team being eliminated. It was about losing the chance to see Caitlin Clark continue her playoff journey. Clark had been the main attraction of the playoffs, and her performances were the highlight of the season. When the Fever were knocked out, fans lost their primary reason for watching.